Have you ever noticed that right before something truly shifts in your life, things seem to fall apart? Everything gets harder, not easier. You start doubting everything, wondering if you made a mistake. Maybe you weren't meant to do this. Maybe the dream was too big. Maybe you're not enough. But what if I told you that this exact moment, the breaking point, the exhaustion, the confusion, the chaos, is not the end but the sign that you are about to break through into a new dimension of your life? What if the resistance is not a warning but a gateway? Think about a seed buried under the soil for weeks or months. There's no sign of life above the surface. It's dark, it's silent, and suddenly the shell cracks. The soil gets tighter, the pressure builds. The seed doesn't know it's sprouting. It only feels the struggle. But what we see from above is the beginning of something new. Powerful, alive, and inevitable. This is the moment of the breakthrough, the final contraction before expansion, the darkness before dawn, the storm before clarity. It's built into nature, into our psychology, into the process of transformation itself. Let's look deeper. Why does it get harder right before it gets better? Because you are shedding your old identity. Your nervous system is being rewired. Your subconscious is being exposed. All the parts of you that were built for survival, not truth, are screaming for you to stop, to turn around, to go back to the familiar. And that resistance feels like failure. It feels like a mistake. But it's actually the clearest sign that you're moving forward. Growth isn't linear. It's cyclical and messy. You don't just rise. You spiral through lessons again and again. But each time with more awareness, more depth, more inner power. You're not back at square one. You're being invited to respond differently, to finally integrate what you've learned, to act from your new truth, not your old fear. Picture a rocket ship right before it leaves the atmosphere. The most pressure, the most friction, the most fire. It burns through everything, and the noise is deafening. It's easy to think something's wrong, but it's the only way through. The gravity of your past is strong. It doesn't want to let you go. Not because it hates you, but because it's familiar. It's safe. Even if it's painful. The brain prefers predictable pain over uncertain freedom. So when you start breaking cycles, when you say no to the patterns that kept you small, your system rebels. You feel the ache in your body, the confusion in your mind, the fear in your chest, and you think, I can't do this anymore. But hear this. The breakdown is not the end. It's the test. It's the passage. It's the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. And most people turn back right here. They call it a sign. They think it's fate. But it's not fate. It's feedback. And if you understand that everything gets harder before your breakthrough, you won't quit. You'll lean in. You'll breathe deeper. You'll move slower. But you won't stop. The truth is you're being initiated. There's a sacred intelligence to the chaos. It's stripping away everything that isn't you. And that's painful, but necessary. The same way a snake sheds its skin, or a butterfly dissolves in the cocoon, or a muscle breaks before it grows. That's what you're experiencing. The death of the old self. The labor pains of the new. And it's terrifying, because you can't see what's on the other side. And your ego needs guarantees. But your soul works in surrender. It doesn't need certainty. It needs commitment. And this is the moment that asks for your deepest yes. The kind of yes that stays even when it hurts. Even when it's slow. Even when you feel alone. Because you're not alone. Not really. Everyone who ever made it through the fire faced this same edge. They all wanted to give up. They all questioned themselves. They all cried behind closed doors. But they stayed. And you can too. Because what's waiting on the other side is not just a goal or a dream. It's a new version of you. One that's more aligned, more alive, more real than you've ever known before. And every challenge you face right now is shaping that version. Every obstacle is a sculptor, chipping away what's not needed. Every failure is a teacher, preparing you to hold more success. Every delay is a lesson in trust. Every setback a reminder to return to your center. You see, the universe doesn't withhold. It prepares. It strengthens. It clears. And when it gets harder, it's often because you're finally ready for more. And more requires space, and strength, and surrender. So yes, it's hard, but you are not here to live an easy life. You're here to live a meaningful one. And that means facing the resistance and still saying, I'm not turning back. Not this time. Because you remember how many times you quit too soon. How many times you almost made it, but let the fear win. How many times you told yourself, maybe I'm not meant for this. But what if you are? What if this time you just hold on? What if you trust the pressure as a sign of proximity? What if you let it build, and break, and burn, and then finally release into the life that's been waiting for you? Not the one you force, but the one you align with. Not the one you chase, but the one you allow. Not the one that matches your past, but the one that reflects your truth. That is the breakthrough. And it's closer than you think. The moment right before the breakthrough is like the final climb before reaching the mountain peak. The air gets thinner, your legs burn, your mind screams to stop. But the view waiting at the top is beyond anything you imagined. The pain is temporary, but the perspective is forever. Think about every major turning point in your life. Didn't it come after a period of chaos or confusion? When you thought nothing was working? When you felt lost or broken? And yet something inside pushed you to keep going. That voice, the one that says just one more step, just one more breath, just one more day, is the same voice that leads every person who ever changed their life. Because breakthroughs are not about luck. They are about endurance, the ability to stay when everything in you wants to run. Because what you are fighting is not the world. It's your own inner limitations, your doubts, your fear, your comfort zone. And that zone is seductive. It whispers, why not stop now? It's safer here. But safe is not where life happens. Safe is where dreams go to die. The discomfort you feel right now is proof that you are alive, that you are expanding, that you are stepping into territory you've never been before. And yes, that is scary, but it's also sacred, because life only tests what's ready to grow. The pain is not punishment, it's preparation. The resistance is shaping you like fire shapes metal, like storms shape the shoreline, like pressure shapes diamonds. And every single hard moment is creating the resilience you will need on the other side. Because success is not about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you need to be to hold it. And that becoming happens here, in the struggle. Not when everything is easy. Not when everyone supports you. Not when the road is clear. But when it's dark. When it's lonely. When you wonder if it's worth it. That's where the magic is born. That's where strength is built. That's where you transform into the person who no longer needs to chase breakthroughs, because they become the breakthrough themselves. This is why the moment before everything shifts often feels like everything is falling apart. Your old patterns are collapsing. Your old beliefs are crumbling. Your old energy is being burned away. It feels chaotic, because the structure that held you small is being dismantled. And your mind hates that. It wants to control the process. But transformation is never neat. It's raw, and messy, and unpredictable. It doesn't ask for permission. It asks for surrender. It asks, will you trust me even when it hurts? Will you stay even when you can't see the path? Will you believe in something you can't yet touch? And if your answer is yes, even a shaky, trembling yes, then you are already on the other side. You just don't see it yet. Imagine standing in front of a locked door. You've been knocking for months. Nothing happens. You're tired. You want to give up. But what you don't know is that the lock is about to break. One more knock. One more push. And it opens. And if you stop now, you'll never know how close you were. Most people stop at 99%. They walk away from the door just before it opens, because they let fear convince them it's never going to happen. But breakthroughs are not random. They are built through every small step. Every silent effort, every moment you choose to rise when you could have stayed down, every time you believe when you have no proof. This is why things get so intense right before the shift, because the universe, whatever name you give it, wants to see if you're ready, if you're serious, if you can hold the blessing you're asking for. Because blessings are heavy, they require strength, and you build that strength in the waiting, in the challenges, in the moments that feel unbearable. You are not being punished. You are being forged. like gold in fire. You are being prepared for the life you've been asking for. And preparation is rarely comfortable. Think about a bow and arrow. The further you pull the string, the more tension, the more pressure. It feels like something might snap. But that tension is what gives the arrow power to fly. Your life works the same way. The tension, the struggle, the pressure. It's all loading your arrow for the moment you release and soar. But you have to hold the tension. You can't quit halfway through. Because if you do, the arrow never flies. Your dreams never lift. You stay where you are. And deep down you know you're meant for more. You can feel it in your bones. That whisper that says don't settle. That fire that says I was born for something greater. That is your compass. That is your reminder that the breakthrough is not just possible. It's inevitable if you stay long enough to see it happen. And maybe right now you're in that moment. The in-between, where nothing makes sense, and everything feels heavier than ever. Where your efforts seem invisible, where the doors stay closed, and silence answers your prayers. But let me tell you something. Silence is not absence, and delay is not denial. Silence is space being made inside you. Space for strength, for clarity, for alignment, for power. And if you let it do its work, if you don't rush the silence, or judge the delay, you will emerge with something far greater than a goal achieved. You will emerge with a self-realized, a self who no longer needs validation, because you've walked through fire and still stood tall, who no longer fears the unknown, because you've lived there and found your breath, who no longer begs for permission, because you've built your own path. That version of you is born right here, in the thick of it, not after, not when it's over, not when you've already succeeded, but now, when you feel like you can't go on, and still choose to rise again. So what if instead of asking how do I escape this, you ask what is this making of me? Who am I becoming through this pain? What new muscle am I building? What new depth am I touching? Because every challenge you face is giving you a choice. To either react from fear, or respond from your future. To either collapse, or to expand. And expansion is uncomfortable. It stretches you in ways you never agreed to. It exposes what you didn't know was hiding. It demands more honesty, more integrity, more truth. But that truth is your liberation. Because you don't grow by becoming someone else. You grow by removing everything that's not you. And that's what hardship does. It burns away the illusions, the masks, the coping mechanisms, the personas that kept you safe, but stuck. And what's left is your essence. Powerful and ready. This is why things get hard right before your breakthrough. Because your life is not punishing you. It's purifying you. It's not blocking you. It's building you. And if you can remember that, if you can hold that perspective, you will walk through this fire and come out gold. Because here's the secret. The breakthrough was never about the outcome. It was always about who you had to become to receive it. It's the version of you that chooses trust over fear, action over perfection, devotion over doubt. The version of you that stops asking when will it happen, and starts saying I'm already on the path. I am the path. And when you embody that, when you stop waiting and start becoming, everything begins to move. Because you've shifted the energy. You've stopped begging and started creating. You've stopped reaching and started radiating. And the world feels that. It responds to that. Life opens to that. Because energy doesn't lie. And the most magnetic thing you can be is true. True to your journey. True to your soul. True to the vision you hold. Even when no one else sees it yet. Especially when no one else sees it yet. Because that is the test. Can you believe before the evidence? Can you love before the return? Can you stay before the reward? Because if you can, that is faith. And faith is the fuel of all creation. So let it be hard. Let it be messy. Let it be uncertain. And still show up. Still take the step. Still speak the truth. Still hold the vision. And you will become the one who never needed to chase the breakthrough again. Because you will be living it, breathing it, being it. That's the gift. And it's worth every second of this pain. Every tear. Every doubt. Every sleepless night. Because all of it is not in your way. It is your way. It is your initiation. It is your sacred becoming. You see, the people who reach their breakthroughs are not the ones who never struggled. They are the ones who struggled and stayed, who broke and rebuilt, who fell and still chose to rise again and again. Not because they were fearless, but because something inside them whispered louder than the fear. Something inside them refused to die, even when everything else seemed lost. And that something is in you too. Maybe buried, maybe bruised, but it's there. The part of you that knows this isn't the end. The part of you that feels something bigger is being born. The part of you that doesn't want a life of comfort, but a life of meaning. And that meaning often comes wrapped in resistance. Because the universe doesn't test you to watch you fail. It tests you to reveal you, to strengthen you, to refine you. You think the storm is here to destroy you. But what if it's here to strip away what's false, so that only the truth remains? What if the pressure you feel is life molding you into the exact shape needed to receive the blessing you asked for? And that shape can't be created through ease. It must be carved through experience, through effort, through fire. So when you feel like it's getting harder, when everything around you seems to collapse, when the doubt creeps in and the way forward disappears, remember, this is the final stretch. This is the part where most people quit. And you won't. Not this time. Because now you know the truth. Now you see that the darkness is not a void, but a womb. Now you realize that you are not being left behind. You are being called forward. And you don't need to see the whole path to take the next step. You don't need certainty to continue. You just need courage. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move anyway. And every time you move, you make a statement to life. I'm ready. I'm willing. I will not settle for less than what I know I'm here for. And life listens. It always does. Because life mirrors your energy, your devotion, your belief. So if you keep showing up, even when nothing shows up for you yet, if you keep trusting when there's no evidence, if you keep building when no one is watching, eventually the breakthrough becomes inevitable. Not because of luck, but because of alignment. Because you've done the inner work to match the outer result. And when it comes, it doesn't just change your life. It changes you. It changes how you walk, how you speak, how you love, how you lead. It becomes a part of your soul. Not just a moment of success, but a foundation of truth. And that truth is unshakable. Because you earned it through every moment you didn't give up. Through every time you chose growth over comfort, love over fear, purpose over doubt. And maybe right now it still feels far. Maybe the pain is still loud. Maybe you're still waiting for the light. But let this be your reminder. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are being shaped. You are becoming. You are in the exact place where the old ends and the new begins. And if you can hold that, even for a second, if you can breathe into that, even in the chaos, then you have already crossed the threshold, because you have chosen to trust the process. And that is everything. Trust is not passive. It is not sitting still and hoping for a miracle. It is the fierce, quiet power of showing up again and again. Even when it feels like nothing is happening. Trust is saying, I'm still here. I'm still in. I'm still walking. And sometimes that walk is slow. Sometimes that walk is crawling. But it is forward. And forward is enough. You don't need to leap. You don't need to fly. You just need to move. And with every step you are proving to yourself that you are no longer the person who quits. You are no longer the one who gives up at the first sign of resistance. You are the one who sees resistance as a signal, not a stop sign. Who sees discomfort as a compass, not a curse. Who knows that right when things get the hardest is often when you are the closest. Because the edge of transformation always feels like breaking. It always feels like too much, right before it becomes your new normal. And if you can stay in it, if you can breathe through it, you will notice something. Something shifts. The noise softens. The panic subsides. The clarity returns. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic explosion, but in quiet, steady knowing that you are okay, that you are on your way, that you are already different. And you'll look back one day and see that the moment you almost gave up was the moment the change was happening beneath the surface. The breakthrough was not in the ease. It was in the staying. It was in the breath you took when everything inside said scream. It was in the choice to love yourself through the confusion. It was in the decision to keep the vision alive. When the world didn't see it yet. That is power. Not loud, not showy, but real, grounded, embodied. And when you live from that place, nothing can shake you, because you know who you are. Not from theory, but from fire. And fire does not leave you empty. It leaves you clear. It burns away what's false and reveals what's essential. And that is what is happening to you now. You are being returned to your essence, not your story, not your wounds, not your fears, but your soul. And your soul does not break. It expands. It evolves. It rises. And it carries you through every wave of resistance, until suddenly the resistance is gone. And you are standing in the very place you dreamed of, not as a visitor, but as someone who belongs there, because you've earned it. With your presence, with your patience, with your pain, you've earned it by not giving up on yourself when it was the hardest to stay. And now that breakthrough is not just something you receive, it's something you've become. You've become the proof that staying works, that trust works, that love works, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when the evidence takes its time to arrive. You've become the embodiment of perseverance, the living story that others will one day look at and say, if they did it, maybe I can too. And you won't need to explain how or why, because your energy will speak louder than words. Your presence will carry the truth of everything you walked through, and that truth will ripple outward, inspiring, healing, activating others without effort, just by being you. Because people don't need more perfection. They need more permission. Permission to feel, to fall, to rise, to become. And your journey becomes that permission. Every scar becomes sacred. Every failure becomes a step. Every delay becomes divine timing. Because you see the thread. You see how every moment wove you into who you are now. And you wouldn't trade it. Because what you gained is beyond success. What you gained is self. And when you have yourself, when you are no longer running from you, when you are no longer abandoning you, when you are no longer negotiating your worth or silencing your truth, that is the real breakthrough. It's not the money. It's not the applause. It's not the external. It's the internal shift that says, I am no longer afraid to be all of me. I am no longer waiting for life to validate me. I validate myself. I am no longer chasing worth. I live from it. And from that place everything changes. Not because you force it, but because you flow from truth. And truth creates its own momentum. It draws what belongs. It clears what doesn't. It aligns you with the exact experiences that match your new frequency. And that frequency is earned through the moments when it was easier to hide, easier to quit, easier to shrink. But you didn't. And now you've become the one you once needed. Not the version who had it all figured out, but the version who kept showing up. And that's who you are now. You are the breakthrough. Walking, breathing, living. And it will keep unfolding. Not in one big moment, but in layers, in waves, in chapters. Because transformation doesn't end. It deepens. It widens. It becomes a lifestyle, a way of being, where every challenge is an invitation. Every fear is a teacher. Every step is sacred. And you no longer wait for perfect conditions to live fully. You live fully now. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. And the truth is what sets you free. And freedom is not the absence of struggle. It is the power to remain yourself within it. It is not about never falling. It's about always returning. It's the knowing that you don't have to become someone else to deserve what's already meant for you. You just have to become more of who you really are. And sometimes life has to shake you to wake you. Sometimes the path has to test you to strengthen you. Sometimes the vision has to stretch you to prepare you. But it is always moving you toward your highest self, your most aligned life, your deepest truth. And now you understand why things got hard. Not because you were failing, but because you were upgrading. Not because you were broken, but because you were breaking through. Not because you were being punished, but because you were being positioned to receive, to lead, to embody the version of you that could not emerge without the fire. So thank the fire, thank the delay, thank the struggle, because they revealed you to you. And that is the most powerful thing you can ever hold. And now you carry that power forward, not with fear, but with reverence, because you know what it cost, you know what it took, you know what it means to keep going, and that knowing becomes your compass. From this moment forward, you don't question the hard times. You embrace them. You don't avoid the discomfort. You walk through it. You don't fear the unknown. You trust it. Because the breakthrough is no longer something you wait for. It is something you walk in, every day, with every choice, with every breath, with every moment you stay true to you. So when things get hard again, and they will, because growth never ends, you will remember this. You will remember that pressure is not punishment. It is purpose. That confusion is not a curse. It is recalibration. That pain is not a sign to quit. It is an invitation to listen. And if you listen deeply enough, you will hear the truth whispering, still here, still worthy, still becoming. And you will know exactly what to do. Not because it's written on a map, but because it's encoded in your soul. And your soul always knows the way. This is why things get hard right before your breakthrough. Not to stop you, but to strip you. Not to crush you, but to clarify you. Not to break you, but to birth you.